If you've ever tried to use Leonardo AI to create images, one of the first things you'll notice is that it has a lot of models. In fact, when you scroll over to the Models and Training tab, you'll see tons of different types. But what are all these models, and which one should you use to get the best results? This can be very confusing, especially for beginners. That's exactly why I'm making this video, to help you figure out which model to use to get the best result for your next project. These models aren't just for show. Each one has important features that affect how your images turn out and how many credits you'll spend per generation. Some models can generate text while others can't. In this video, we're going to explore all the latest image generation models available in Leonardo AI. To begin, let's head over to the image generation page. When you click on the models and preset options, you'll see a list of the most recent models. While Leonardo AI has many models, these newer ones tend to give the best results, so you should focus on using them and avoid the older ones. There are about 16 different models available, and each one has a specific purpose, which we'll explore in this video. The first model here is Lucid Realism. I'll be turning off anything that could influence the results, like auto prompt and style. That way, you'll see exactly what each model is capable of. I'll use a simple prompt with no extra styling, so that the model's built-in style shines through. Just so you know, I'll speed up the generating process to avoid delays throughout this video. Here's the result from the first model. As you can see in the background, the text is spelled correctly and placed naturally. The image looks like a raw photo from a camera, and that's exactly the strength of this model. Even without special words in your prompt, it creates realistic images that look like smartphone photos. It has fewer errors, even the fingers are complete. The whole image composition is very realistic. Here the text is even bent properly at the edge, which makes it look so natural. This model was made for real photos. So if you're going for professional photorealistic results, then Lucid Realism is the model you want. The prompt adherence is strong, errors are minimal, fingers are well formed, and overall composition is excellent. This model was built for photorealism, and it delivers as promised. Next is the GPT Image 1, which is literally powered by ChatGPT's own image model. At the moment, this model is the most expensive one when it comes to the credit system, so make sure you keep an eye on it because each model has a different credit cost, and that is very important. This model doesn't produce the most realistic images. It prefers creating shiny, illustrative results that look like old digital illustrations. That's because ChatGPT tends to simplify things for faster generation. This one looks like a photo really, but you can still tell the shiny effect. It's not very realistic, but the major advantage of using this model is its text capacity. GPT Image 1 is the best for heavy text-based designs. If you want to create flyers, posters, or anything with a lot of text, this is your go-to model. For example, here's a previous flyer I generated using it. You can see it has a lot of clear, well-placed text that no other model could handle. Another thing to keep in mind is that this model only supports 3 aspect ratios at the moment, so it's not ideal if you need custom sizes. Next is the Flux Condex model. This is a very powerful model, and you can create literally anything with it. I love it because it has very strong prompt adherence, which means it follows your input very closely and produces high-quality results with minimal errors, especially for hands and faces. The downside is that you can only generate one image at a time. As you can see, the image it delivers has a polished, professional look, almost like an edited Instagram photo. The pose, the model, the whole vibe of the image is very polished and it's accurate. It also handles text quite well, though not as much as GPT Image 1. It's great for fashion photography, realistic designs, and even some photo editing. It's a bit expensive, costing about 50 credits per image, but definitely worth it. We'll move on to the next model, which is Fenix 1.0. This is Leonardo AI's latest in-house model, and it works really well. It's definitely cheaper than the first 3 that I've mentioned, but it does have some issues with prompt adherence. As you can see in the result, the pose of the woman is a bit off. It can generate text, but not always perfectly. I've also noticed that it has some basic errors, especially with the hands, fingers, and little things like poses. So, you might have to generate multiple times to get the result you're looking for. That being said, it's pretty decent. If you want to create a design or an image with some text and you want to save money, this model is a great option. Another thing about Fenix 1.0 is that it has high creativity, unlike GPT Image 1. This model tends to be very imaginative. Even if you don't specify a style, it has a kind of Midjourney-esque aesthetic to it. So, if you want a little bit of built-in creativity with text capabilities, this model is the right one for you. For example, this is one of the designs I created earlier with this model. I've used it for a lot of my t-shirt designs, and it does an amazing job. You can see that it can handle simple text arcs and creative designs quite well. It's fast, affordable, and very reliable for basic needs. It does not work for super realistic photography, but for illustrations and creative designs, the Fenix 1.0 model is perfect. The next model is Flux Dev. Flux Dev is not particularly new, but it's another model capable of generating text. It also produces fairly realistic photographic images. It's cheaper than the latest models, but as we move down the list, the prompt adherence starts to drop. I have noticed that Flux Dev is prone to errors. For example, the text is not rendered correctly, or you might see issues like misplaced objects. So, it does require some reprompting and trial and error. However, it's still a good model for realism and photography-style outputs if you don't want to spend too many credits. Next, we have Flux Schnell. The major difference is that Flux Schnell is a smaller model made for simpler and more basic illustrations and paintings. If you want to create simple illustrations, especially for children's books, greeting cards, or basic t-shirt designs, Flux Schnell is your best option. In this case, I used the exact same prompt and settings as before, but with Flux Schnell, I got a 2D illustration with a comic book feel. The text is incorrect, but the style is more playful and less realistic. So, think of Flux Dev for realistic 3D and photorealistic images, and Flux Schnell for simpler artistic designs. Next is Fenix 0.9. This is an older model. I honestly don't know why they still keep it on the platform, but it's there, and it's cheap. It costs around 15 credits for 3 images, which is a huge difference compared to the 50 to 150 credits required for the newer models. It works for only illustrations and basic designs. I used to rely on Fenix 0.9 before the newer models were released, but I don't use it anymore, and its prompt adherence is very weak. It often gets compositions wrong, like messed up fingernails or distorted body parts. You'd have to write very long, detailed prompts and still do multiple attempts to get a decent result. So even though it's cheaper, I find it's not worth the extra effort. The next model is Anime. As the name suggests, this model is designed for Japanese-style animation and manga-style images. I'm not adding any specific anime style here, just a basic prompt to show you what it can do. Just so you know, from this point onward, all the models I'll talk about cannot generate text. Out of the 16 models available, only about 7 can do text, and anime is not one of them. Even if you see some text in the background, it's usually messy and unusable. But for anime fans, this model is perfect for creating character illustrations, manga scenes, and other anime-inspired art. Just don't expect text or any form of photorealism, as it's strictly for stylized anime visuals. Next, we have Cinematic Kino. This model is meant to produce cinematic-looking images, like shots that feel like a movie scene or Instagram photos with cinematic filters. That's the goal, but in reality, it doesn't fully live up to its name unless you use highly detailed prompts. It has some style built in, but its prompt adherence is weak. You'll often see errors, especially with faces or hands, so you may need to use the upscaler or correct the images in post-processing. Also, this model cannot generate text. The images are good, but can look basic unless you put in extra work with prompting. Next up is concept art. I need to select a style for this model to show you what it can do, so I'll pick something simple and regenerate. Concept art is supposed to be for game design style illustrations, 2D or simple concept sketches, but the results are often too realistic or stylized. It doesn't live up to its name. Instead of simple sketches, you get heavily rendered, hyper-stylized art. It doesn't do text either. Personally, I don't use this model much because it doesn't deliver what I expect from a concept art generator. It gives you something between hyperrealism and illustration, which is cool, but not practical for simple concept work. Next is the graphic design model. I've tried it several times, it just doesn't work. This model cannot create text, and the images it generates are very realistic, more so like hyper-realistic illustrations. So, if you want to create graphics like invitations, t-shirt designs, or greeting cards, this is not the model for you. As you can see, it does not live up to its name. The next model is Illustrative Albido. This one is strictly used for realistic illustrations. That's all it does. I've tried using it for simpler art styles, but it doesn't work. If you want shiny, 3D, style characters that look like concept art or hyperrealistic renders, then this is the model for you. You can see that the character here isn't realistic. There's a glossy, AI-like shine to the skin and features. That's why it's called hyperrealism. It looks like a photo, but you can still tell it's not real. The next model is Leonardo lighting. This model is supposed to be photorealistic. I say supposed to because the results can be hit or miss. Still, this one is actually closer to true photorealism than most of the older models. It produces images that look like Instagram photos with subtle filters, warm tones, or soft lighting. It doesn't support text, and it has some issues with composition and hands. But as a basic model, it's decent, especially for casual photo style outputs. It's not perfect, but it's cheap and gets the job done. Next, we have the Lifelike Vision model. Again, this is another model that is supposed to deliver top-notch photorealism, but the results are not always top quality. As you can see in this image, the composition is decent, and with the right prompt, you can get good structure. But you can't change the style, and it doesn't do text. If you take a closer look, you can still tell it's an AI-generated image. This model is supposed to mimic real photography, but it sometimes gets things wrong. For example, in this image, the lady is not actually sitting on the chair, she's hovering slightly above it. This is a common issue with the older models. They're more error-prone, especially with perspective, posing, and details. So that's something to keep in mind when using Lifelike Vision model. Next is the Portrait Perfect model. As the name suggests, this model is made for lifelike portraits, images of faces, headshots, and close-ups. I used the same prompt, and even though it wasn't a portrait prompt, the model still focused on the character's face. It did a pretty good job. But to really show you what it's capable of, I'm going to change the prompt to something very simple. And there you go. Look at the facial details. The brows, the eyes, the smile, the teeth. This is portrait-level realism. The details are incredible. You have to be an expert to tell that this is an AI-generated image. The skin texture, the expression, the wrinkles, you can tell that this model is made for portraits. If you want to create headshots or any kind of portrait photography, this is the model to use. Even though it can't generate text, the level of detail it delivers is mind-blowing. Honestly, I think it's even better than Lucid Realism for portraits, because you don't need a detailed prompt to get amazing results. Just look at the smile. The texture is practically flawless. Most people wouldn't even know it is AI-generated. Honestly, this is one of the best older models Leonardo AI has. It only costs about 9 credits to generate about 3 images, and the results are consistently amazing. So, if you want great head-to-shoulder portrait photography on a budget, this is the model you should use. You can save a lot of credits without sacrificing quality. The last model we'll look at today is stock photography. The name says it all. This model is made to create images that look like stock photos. Most people don't realize this, but the photos you see on stock websites follow very specific guidelines. The lighting, editing, and poses are all geared toward business users, people who need clean, professional-looking images for their websites, blogs, or promotional materials. That's exactly what this model aims to replicate. The results is clean and decent. It still has a few issues, but it's okay overall. If you're on a budget and don't mind doing a little extra prompting or trial and error, this model might work for you. So that's the full rundown of the 16 major image models that Leonardo AI currently offers. Out of all of them, only the first few such as Lucid Realism, GPT Image 1, Flux Context, Fenix 1.0, Flux Dev, and Flux Schnell can generate text. If you want to save yourself time and effort, I highly recommend sticking with the top 6 newer models. They'll give you solid results, and you just need to fine-tune the style and prompts to get what you need. But if you want to save credits and you're okay doing a bit more trial and error, you can try the older models. If you must use the older models, I'd say Portrait Perfect and Lifelike Vision still give decent results and can save you some credits. So that's my full review of Leonardo AI image models. It's not something to stress over, but it definitely gets confusing, especially for new users. If you have any questions about these models or which one to use for your next project, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching this far. My next video will review the video models, so make sure you subscribe to get notified. Please don't forget to share this video with anyone else who might find it helpful.